Good afternoon. I am the CEO, Chasung of SECULETTR, despite the pandemic situation. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation and joining us. And also, I'd like to thank everybody, both offline and online. In my presentation today, it will be pretty much on malware or malicious code, because that's a specialty of my company, how they come in, how to block. So we focus our business areas on these issues. There are a lot of security issues and priorities, but we just focus on how to block malware. So I'll talk about the very technology to block malware. Recently speaking, there have been some mass-scale hacking incidents. So what came in as initial attack actually is critical. Mostly, so what kind of file came in as the first one? In many of the cases, these are text files, no matter what company you're talking about. So the file that comes in is in the form of a text file. So because it's very difficult to bring in the execution file. The email attachment files actually are the initial point to start an attack. So this is a statistic from Financial Institute of Security. So in terms of the types of malware introductions, 54% actually are via malware. And among the malware types, most of the hacking attacks are through email because, as you're well aware, the files that come in from outside to inside is in the form of emails. And the files you get through email definitely would be the document files or text files. So for the attack coming in through document files, it's very important to block them or defend them. In the past, we actually received EXP file through email. I mean, there were many who could open it and got attacked. But now, thanks to higher security awareness and training, with a very awkward name like a black hole exe, not that many people are likely to download it, maybe nobody in the audience. And also for quite a long time, for Gmail or Naver or webmails even, when there's attachment exe file, I mean, you cannot even attach exe file from the very beginning. So attacking through exe file is not so common these days. So a lot of attacks would come through document files. But through security training, I mean, we know how important it is, especially when we are dealing with document files. I mean, you have to open it though, right, to pay for the bill sometimes. So how to block it beforehand, it's something we need to think about in depth. As for the ways to block malware, some of the very common ones would include using antivirus vaccines on PCs. So they are excellent solutions inside the PC based on the records of intrusion and infection. These would serve as a blocking solution. So these are signature-based security solutions. So when there is target attack, new malwares are created. Therefore, there is no signature for these new ones. So one big defect of this is not being able to block the ones without a signature, despite so many advantages. So ATP solution was launched about 10 years ago. So this is what we call the behavior-based solution. So this is a very good concept. So without a signature, you can diagnose malware as a solution. How do they do it? So before they execute it, in a virtual environment, they might try to see how it looks like. So if we see like a malignant act, even without a signature, even if it's a new malware, it can still be blocked. So if it does any anomaly in a virtual environment, it can be blocked. Because it's a behavior-based solution, this has a very strong advantage. They can block unknown or non-signature based ones, but has been there in the market for 10 years. So hackers are aware of this. So they are thinking of ways to bypass it, because hackers these days are more of the corporate scale, so they do a lot of sophisticated research to better hack. There are 3 different ways they appropriate. For example, the first one here is, so when they send it, you can check out by checking, you can actually check out if it's a real environment or virtual environment when you open it. If it's a virtual environment, you can make sure that it doesn't execute at all. So in a sandbox or behavior-based ones, so it would take a look at the behavior for 5 minutes and then see if it's malignant or not, malicious or not. But if it's to be done like in 3 days or 4 days, there's limited time in the sandbox APT solution, so that still you can bypass it as an attacker. And the third one is actually to use the user behavior conditions. Let's say there is a 3 or 4 page document when you take a look at it. If you look at specific font, then vulnerability would take place then. And sandbox would not find it very easy to recognize it. With the recent sandbox solutions, because of the rampancy of such malware, there is this feature where the automatic reading of the 5th page is made possible. But still, you can do so after 100 pages, even after 1,000 pages. And you have to actually put the mouse over the letters. So the likelihood of bypassing the action is infinite. So sandbox ones are excellent in quality, but still there are some loopholes. So how can we detect the loopholes? So this is the focus we have at SECULETTR. As I told you before, as for exe files, these are fundamentally blocked. So normally, a lot of document files are vulnerable to hacking, and hacking incidents are to do with document files. And some of you might not know how is it that document files are to do with the hacking activities. So maybe you can think about how these can play such functions. So there are 2 probabilities. First, so document can use a normal feature to do hacking. Second, it will use abnormal feature to do hacking. So in the first case, the normal feature can be used to do hacking. So what are the examples here? So we use macro a lot, and it seems exactly like execution file in documents. So there's this macro where you download your file outside. So you actually, it was made to use it normally, but then it actually changed into the malware, then it becomes malware. So if there's macro, it is a bit it's risky. But still, macro is a normal feature of a document. So when you open up a document, there's a window in yellow. Do you want to execute in macro? And they say no to that. As long as you click no, and things are fine. You're not likely to be infected with malware if that's the case. But there are still some people who would execute it by clicking yes, right? It must be blocked. So for all of these malicious files using normal features, there's this technology CDR can be used. So JavaScript macro can be removed. The document is recombined again through CDR and sent again by cleaning it. So it can fundamentally block malware activities. But I mean, for these ones, the number is very big, and it happens quite a lot. But the more risky ones are the hacking using abnormal features, which is smaller in volume. For example, I mean, any vulnerability in fonts, or any of the vulnerabilities in headlines or attributes of a table. So if these cases occur without the consent of a user, they can just do hacking immediately. So this is actually, done in a way that this inventor of this has never thought of. It's very difficult to block. So this is not possible to be cleaned using CDR. So for macro and others, these can be removed with CDR. But for the files utilizing vulnerabilities, there are vulnerabilities for the font. You cannot actually have it uniform using CDR, and also you can bypass signature. So when things happen, the files will be sent to analysts, and they would do reverse engineering at the assembly level to see if it's normal or not. And then they do signature updates. But the analysis at the assembly level, I mean, you can do it at the assembly level before things happen, because a SECULETTR provides automated solution for that. So there are certain vulnerabilities happening at specific spots, and at the assembly level, these can be automatically diagnosed. So for example, so if you see the value of CPU register, you can see CC there. But the developer Acrobat leader can ever imagine that there will be more data than that in making this program. So when we open a document file, so this CC value cannot be there, but that data is made enlarged, and then the program can be ruined. So as for Acrobat leader, the program gets ruined, and there's a message saying that abnormal route, and then it's being masked, so the malware is being executed. In order to diagnose vulnerabilities, so you can do fundamental diagnosis at the register level. So when there's debugging done, so it is to follow the CPU register to see if as a chain is infected, or at this point. So this is when our correct reader acts normally. But there might be a lot of abnormal data here. This is before the mail activity takes place. So if you go into it, you don't know what activities have been done, but still you can see if it's normal or not, this file is normal or not. So if you look at the CPU register, so it will receive a lot of values, and there will be exploits. If it's normal, you cannot go to heap, but if there's exploit, you can go to heap and do mail activities. So the shell code here, inside the shell code, if you put ransomware, it becomes a ransomware. So if you put the feature of sending file outside, then it has that feature there. So this is a Word file, and inside there's a flash. And we'll test.mp4. That's the fundamentally problematic file, which is less than 1 kilobyte. So you can have it put there, but then you actually have it extracted there, because hackers actually want to attack when they want. It's not that difficult to make, so it can be put aside, and then email can be sent. It was newly made. The signature can be bypassed, and in Sandbox, when you operate it, it is looked upon as a normal file, because there is no malactivity done, and it can actually go into the internal network. And the difference with the execution file is that for document file, you would do correction and send it, and it actually comes in different versions. And by the time that it is recognized to be entering the internal network, the server is on the hacker side, then the malware activity starts here. But putting aside the trigger file is not difficult at all. So most of the malware files are made that way, so you can just do a very easy job of putting those aside. So you can accumulate malware files, and if you actually execute those in sandbox, except for the signature-based ones, I mean, not much activities are shown here because there are a lot of files made that way. So for this kind of file, by the time you do diagnosis, you cannot tell if the activity is malicious or not. And also you cannot make the decision because of this signature, because it's a new one. So it is then being transferred to analysts. So as they have it uploaded on a debugger, so you can see the normal memory app being used, and this is the heap display being shown. So when private memory is used, like for 400 mega, for example, the analyst would think that. So heap spray is likely to have been done here. However, having used heap space a lot doesn't mean that it is a malware attack. Still, it could still be recognized as normal, but it still might look suspicious in the eyes of analysts. So in order for shellcode to be executed, except for RP chain, NLP level must be definitely included because you can actually write malicious codes in order to have them well activated in the counterparty's PC. So NLP thread must be there, and then shellcode must be put afterwards. So these are the essential ones. So by looking at the repetitive NLP level, you can decide that yes, this is a malware. So NLP level also can be found when you see the title level letters. And for the SOP chain, you can see it's changed. So when the program fails, there is this message popping up that this is not normal, and there is a 0808 there. And our correct reader will go to the heap address and do ransomware attack there, and it would call APR, which you shouldn't use. And deeper side, when you decide that this is malicious activity, then you can still decide that this is a malware attack. So this is where it has been applied to customers. If your staff is 400 or over, and there is like a total of 48 cases of malware, 8 signature-based, 40 unknown. But if we get the reports, we can see that there is incoming of 40 cases of unknown malware attacks. I mean, if we didn't know it before, well, you might end up fine, but by knowing it, we should do something about it. So if you don't have solution, you still have the 40 cases that are likely attacked. But still, there are some cases, there's 1,000 cases per month, but there will be hundreds in other cases. In financials, the number coming in is not so many because the security is tight. But there might be 1 or 2 coming in, but still can have a huge impact. The number doesn't mean much, but still, you can see, malware really comes in a lot, which we don't recognize fully. And I guess this kind of question, for example, I mean, malware intrusion is so frequent, and why is it that we didn't know it before? But for most of the malware, they are in operation in winning mode. So when we recognize it, it's when hackers want us to know that it's happening. or it could be K-water case where PC is formatted, for example. It doesn't happen that often, although different types of malware have occurred. So even if you're infected, you don't even know it has been infected. So even if there is intrusion, you don't even know it has been intruded. But preemptive blocking is very important for tight security. So we have solutions for the email between spams and email. If it's normal, pass. If it's not, then it's blocked. And they report it to the manager in charge. So this is the SLE email form. And another thing I'd like to focus on is the network and connecting solution. In order to protect the internal network, so we have deseparated the networks. This is a closed network. For example, in very critical facilities like government agencies, there is a closed network, although this is a little bit inconvenient. Even if the connectivity is there for the network. So documents still come in from outside to inside. So if it is with malware, the internal network might be infected. So antivirus vaccine definitely is a must for network connecting solution, but it's signature-based. So only the known malwares are detected, not the others. So for the ones that are inside the network, new one is used. So not the old ones are used. So the old ones are not reused. So in order to detect an unknown one, there must be sandbox product to detect unknown ones must be there. So let's say it actually has action-based or behavior-based solution or sandbox one. So because there is action definitely in EXE, this is a product made well to detect actions or behavior. Because non-PEs are the ones that where that's without execution. So when we are using sandbox solution, still the detection rate might not be so high. So it's very important how well to diagnose the document files. So as for network connection, it's important that you send and you get the file. So as I said, this is like 5 minutes in sandbox one, because you are to send and get. If there's a delay of 5 minutes, I know it's very hassling, and you get a lot of complaints, which lowers your productivity as well. So it should be fast enough, still do unknown detection, unknown target detection. So SECULETTR solution is not sandbox one, but debugger one, where application is uploaded and then attach non-PEs. So this is slightly different in terms of framework with the sandbox ones. So if you look at GS certificate, so it looks like, for example, 3 seconds or less to detect. Less than 1 minute, the outcome can be generated. And this is the only exclusive one in the market to do the job in that short period of time. So KISA and financials and other agencies are using it. And diagnosis rate is very important, but availability also very critical, so you can see how broad the coverage is. So as for the forum, web forum, for example, so national health insurance and life insurance, when there is uploading of documents, execution files cannot be uploaded, but when the petitioners upload the files, those in charge are to download them. But if, for example, malware is uploaded, they would end up opening up the malware. So whatever is uploaded actually can be aligned with our solution. So just give you a summary of technologies at the assembly level. Malware is detected through this only solution, and because we use this kind of technique, this is much faster than the sandbox ones. And thirdly speaking, after shell codes are executed, there might be infinite probabilities or actions or behaviors. But before the shell codes are executed, we are actually doing diagnosis in the stage of preparing for exploits. So we do diagnosis even before hackers actually would try to do with different types of probabilities or scenarios. So to give you another wrap up, antivirus signature-based ones actually were things that were developed some time ago, but still they're not so adequate to be able to detect new malware. In order to detect new malware, there is a sandbox one or action-based one that came into being afterwards, but this is adequate to detect execution ones, but it cannot do so for non-PEs. So for the non-PEs, they cannot detect. So that's at the assembly level. There must be diagnosis at the assembly level to see the vulnerability. So we are using that very technology. So to sum it up, so we don't just do diagnosis at the assembly level. We have different types of diagnostic tools. So the key point here is do a good job in diagnosis-oriented tools we have. And using this technology can be applied to different areas and companies. So we are excellent in diagnosis, but it might be just our thought. I mean, although our customers keep using our product and do our BMT, but there was the information performance certificate by KISA, and we actually got the certificate on the information production performance evaluation outcome. And so we are strongest in terms of diagnosis. So we have Clinity solution and spam mail. These are aligned together with our solution. And SS visibility equipment can be used where SS encryption is taking place. So for example, Jeju provincial government is using our product here. So malware is received through email a lot. So it is okay to block email with malware, but there will be some, for example, like fraudulent emails, like a bank account transfer. So these are more of the fraudulent URLs or fraudulent or scam-related ones. So it's very important to gather as much data you can to provide relevant service. So on this note, we are collaborating with KT. So, I mean, machine learning is done through AI for the related data amounting to 200 million per year and provide services later. So we have cloud service product. It can be used anywhere in the world. So the other ones I talked about, I mean, on-premise, you have to purchase the equipment. But as long as you change the MS record, you can use it anywhere in the world, this product. If it's a small size company, even for companies without a security expert, maybe you can think it this way. So maybe you want to check out how much malware comes in. You can just use it to check it out. So you can have your system well aligned with it, with a cloud service or cloud environment. We have global presence here, as you see on the map. So we actually participated in the Series B funding and then acquired the investment of 10 billion won, working with KDB. And in Saudi, the staff member is about 100. And there are 20 such cases per week. In this case, this is actually Malaysia one. And for 1 month, it was like 3,000 cases. So you can see the cases would vary a lot in number. But anywhere we operated, there still are some malware cases coming in. So you can maybe check out by to see how many malware attacks you're getting per month. I'm not just an engineer, I'm a CEO, entrepreneur for my company. Up until last year, we closed Series B funding, and the cumulative funding amount is 12 billion. And we're preparing for a special technology certificate next year. These are our partners, KEPCO, and so many financial and government institutions that are using our solutions. So Ability System, AD Caps, T&D Soft are partner companies. In order to do business in Korea, CC certificate or innovative product and all other patents are definitely what we have. So why SECULETTR? Why you have to purchase our solutions? Why these are good? So this is again a summary of the strength of our solution. Diagnosis rate is super good. We actually got that recognized by KISA, and so it's 43.28 seconds for the diagnosis speed. We acquired CCI certificate. They were designated innovative product, so you can buy our product through procurement office. And for those designated as innovation ones, so it's very easy to do procurement. So these are nationally recognized innovative products. So there are also incentives for buyers as well. So we got the some of these institutions are using our products with incentives, so they're using our products at low price. This is my last slide. These are my key points. Let's say we are starting a war. Let's say this is cyber war. So malwares are introduced through email. So it's very important to block your emails. So if you're getting execution files from outside to inside, it's like doing a battle with your doors opening. So when you actually let the intrusion of the execution files, you are likely to be attacked. So it might be a bit hassle to block the execution files. So whatever the certificate you have, MS made, you might have certificate there. So you only get these brands signature exe files received and nothing else. And then this is very safe measure to block the intrusion. So in email, you don't have to worry about the exe files anymore, as long as you are abiding by this policy. While other files are just non-PEs, like document or image files. So the document is doing malicious act. So CDR, actually, you can fundamentally erase the possibilities. And font and table attributes, the sophisticated target attackable vulnerabilities. There's no action there, so you can use reverse engineering to effectively block malware. And for fraudulent mails, so when you actually block 1, 2, 3, and 4, this can definitely securely protect customers. This is on my side. Thank you so much for listening.